Okay, you know what we're about to do, right? We're about to move some things. So welcome to animation. This is fun, this is exciting. It's not as scary as it's gonna look. First week. Okay. So, how do we even get into the program? I'm in After Effects. If you look in After Effects under File New, you will see Maxon C4D file. You want to give it a name as you open up, so I'm going to do this Intro 1 C4D. I'm going to save it to my desktop. It's a Maxon Cinema 4D file. I'm going to save, and it will open up. Now, the very first time you open up Maxon Cinema 4D, you may have to go through the registration manager. You're going to register for C4D Lite. If you do the 1 week trial in the full version, it's going to be, in my opinion, a little overwhelming at this point, and then you're going to frustrate out later in the course when everything changes when you go to the Cinema 4D Lite. So you're going for C4D Lite. It's included with your Creative Cloud package. After the first time that you've gone into C4D Lite this way, you should be able to just simply go into your applications and launch it without having to go through After Effects. That's something new. I was not aware that that had been updated, but hey, that's an awesome thing. So, you look at the Cinema 4D screen, make sure you're in standard work over here. Okay. And this is our screen, and it's very intuitive. Like, what in the world is this? I have never seen anything that even begins to look like that. So, what we are looking at is we're looking at a perspective view of a 3D environment. This is our default camera, so we'll start there. You see it's on default camera. We can change this view as we go forward. You know, if we just want to look down the left side and see things in a 2D, we can do that. If we're looking down the left side, we're looking down the x-axis, so that's going to be a Z and a Y going that way. We can top. Now we're looking down the y-axis, and up here's a little color code if you got lost, which one's the X, Y, and Z. So let's go. That's not going to do that. Okay, so let's go back to cameras. Let's go back to our perspective view, and this is where you're going to work most of the time. Okay, over here are our basic tools, and we will cover those in a minute. These are our different modeling modes up here when we want to render something. This is our quick preview and render, and these are our tools over here for building objects. Word of warning, this program can be resource intensive, meaning close everything else. In fact, I might, after the first time I'm in it, even close this out and close After Effects out and then try to open it directly from the application so I don't have After Effects sucking up my system resources. It's going to slow things down significantly if you have other things open, so unless you have a pretty strong PC or Mac, you probably want to make sure that you're managing your resources. Okay. To move around this view, we're in a perspective view. We have these little tools right up here. The hand tool I'm clicking and holding will allow me to move around. I'm moving back and forth with the mouse clicked to scroll in and out. I'm rotating around the center of the object there. And if you're not on a laptop, because it's going to get awful small, but if you have enough screen space, you can click up here and actually go to see the perspective, the top, the right, and the front view so that you can kind of see what's going on in all different directions. Once we get modeling, you're going to find sometimes you want to go into these 2D views instead of a 3D view, so you can make sure things actually line up the way they're supposed to. So that's that. Make sure I click over here when I go back up. Okay. We can also hold the 1 key as I'm moving instead of the hand key, the 2 key to zoom in and out, and the 3 key to rotate around whatever our axis point is at the moment. My move tool is here, and I am in the modeling mode. So if you're not getting what I'm getting, make sure that you have those, and we will cover these in a little more detail, but we need something to move around first, right? So, okay, here we go. Where we're going to begin, what else do I need to tell you? Well, we need an object so I can show you some other things. So I'm going to just click on the objects, and let's start off with a basic cube. When we add an object, you will see it in the object manager over here, and any object we happen to be on is going to have a series of attributes. This is a cube. It's called a geometric primitive. In fact, these for the are referred to as geometric primitives. The figure obviously is not a geometric primitive, but most of these up here and down into there are geometric primitives. It means they're mathematics based. You know, a cube is x times y times z. It's got 6 surfaces. We can work with that, right? So we can see that it has 6 surfaces. At the moment, each surface has 1 segment, which will come into play. We are not filleting the edges yet. They're hard. Okay. We will come into all that. If I want to see where in space it is the center. My default axis on the cube is sitting at where x, y, and z vertexes. Anyway, sitting in at 0, 0, 0 in the Cartesian coordinate system. That's what we use. You know, when you were in algebra, you had x and y, and then you found out there was such a thing as z. Well, that's what we're doing. And that system of numbering x left to right, y top to bottom, z forward to backwards is called the Cartesian coordinate system. It was developed by Descartes, who is most famous for his quote, "I think, therefore I am." Okay, so we're going to think a little bit here. Okay, so as I'm looking, one of the first things you're going to want to do, make sure we're in the default perspective camera, which is where I am. Then you're going to look over here at display. The default is garage shading, and it's giving us a relatively realistic interpretation of what we're seeing. It's not a fully rendered view, but it gives us a realistic view of what we're seeing. It is the slowest and most most resource intensive of the views. We can also do it with lines. If I change my number of segments here so you can see them. Five times 5. Okay, as we move from garage shading to shading with lines, we are now seeing where the individual polygons, what will become individual polygons. At the moment it's still primitive, so they're not polygons yet. They're segments, but if I were to break this apart, they would become individual polygons and points and indices, and we'll talk about that later. Okay, we can do a quick shading. Gives us an idea. It's going to save you time in quick shading with lines. Constant shading. Yeah, I'm not seeing the shadows. Do I always need to see the shadows? Maybe and maybe not. Probably not, because I don't have any lights, so other than just kind of giving me an idea of the depth. And so you can work your way down here in order to get a better render time. We can also work in isoparms. Which is going to rough things out a little bit. If we were to work in box, no matter what we're putting here is just kind of a box. And sometimes if you watch the making of movies, you'll see the animators working in box mode. It is not uncommon for an animation for a team of animators to work all day and then use all the machines in the house to render all night so that they have 20 seconds of animatable film the next day, or editable film the next day. So you don't have to constantly be rendering, but you do want to get kind of an idea of what you're looking at. If I hit the quick render over here, now the lines disappear and I can get kind of a view. And yes, I am still in view. As soon as I click into the screen, I'm back out of that render view. Okay, cool. So let's go. Anything else I need to show you? Down here is our timeline. We will get into that. Object manager, property managers. Up underneath the window, when we get to it, will be our material manager, our material edit. And so we can start adding materials to our, I'll just pull it out and wait for the moment. Start adding materials onto our objects. So that's important to know. Down here is our timeline. It's actually, if we, I've never done it this way. It was something I learned. Yeah. They said I can get straight to the dope sheet this way. I don't. I did it in Friday, Thursday or Friday in class. Usually when I'm getting to the timelines, I'm going up here. I want to either go to the dope sheet where I can see everything that's animated, or I want to go into the F curves, window animation, timeline, straight into the F curves. So I can bounce back and forth between those. So if I want to isolate a particular movement, I'm working in an F curve. If I want to see everything that's being animated, I'll work in the dope sheet. So we'll come back to those. That is not this week, but I want you to kind of feel comfortable with what you're looking at as you're moving around here in our 3D environment. So 3D objects, by the way, are hollow. They're made up of polygons that are connected to one another, and so they are really hollow. The more polygons we have, let's give a different example here so we can kind of see what's happening. We use a sphere. This one sphere at the moment's in 32 segments. So the more segments, the fewer segments, the less smooth things are. The more segments, the smoother they are. So polygons are little flat surfaces. And so the more of them we have, the closer to actually being smooth they appear. But the flip side is the more polygons we have, the slower things will work. It takes longer to read how the rays from the camera and the lights would hit each individual surface and bounce off and then interact with other things. So it takes a lot more processing the more polygons we actually have. And so that's something to keep into consideration. Okay, so let's drop this, say bye-bye to that, and we will come back in just a minute and begin our animation. Not our animation, our modeling. Bring it all up front. Okay. Stop recording.